Thanks for joining the Real Mom Gang podcast, where 4 new moms bonded over their obsession with baby classes and keeping it real. Here's your hosts, Amanda, Chantel, Jenna, and Lauren.
Hi, guys!
So, today we're just going to start off with a little bit of announcements for you guys. We're really excited. We're going to have a giveaway at the end of the week. It's going to be for something that we just had made, and we're actually going to pick it up today. So watch out for that on our Instagram. It's at the Real Mom Gang. You can also follow us there so that you can see when new episodes come out. Some pretty funny quotes and such. And to hear all about our guests. And our first guest is going to be next week. And she's going to talk to us about adoption. So we're really, really looking forward to that. We've also been asking some questions on Instagram. And since today we're going to be talking about sleep, we thought this was a really great question. So at Nora's Notes asked, would love to know if there's moms that are super strict with their routine, like naps and bedtimes, or moms that just play it by ear. Where do you girls fall in that area?
We're definitely playing it by ear. I'd say we're completely winging the whole thing. Even naps, I don't have any scheduled naps whatsoever. It's basically when she's tired and she's ready to sleep, she sleeps. And 90% of that is on the go because we're usually very busy and we go to classes, we do different things every day. So most of the time I'm out and about and I get her to just sleep on the go. Callie's now 5 months old. Ooh. Well, she will be in 2 days. She turns 5 months on the 13th. So I hope we kind of get more into a schedule as she gets older, but right now it's basically just been completely winging it. Even bedtime, like we're going to bed at like, I'd say 10, 10:30, 11, sometimes midnight. It's really when she's tired and ready to go down. I find that if I put her down too early, she wakes up constantly. So usually if I get her to bed at like 10:30, she'll sleep longer periods. But I think we're kind of getting over that the dreaded 4-month sleep regression.
Oh, you know there's one at like 5 months, 6 months, 7 months.
It just keeps going forever.
It just keeps going.
And I didn't even know what sleep deprivation was until then. Like, when I first had Callie, at the beginning, I was like, oh, this is no big deal. Like, she was sleeping 6 to 7 hour stretches on her own, like, without me having to, like, put work into it or, like, having to put her down at certain times or making sure she slept enough during the day for her to sleep all night. And then all of a sudden, she just flipped and she was getting up every hour, sometimes every half hour. Like, it was crazy. And I was so sleep deprived, and I didn't realize how bad it was until I started forgetting everything. Like, I couldn't remember, like, say, what she dressed in for Halloween. I went out for dinner, and the server was like, oh, what was she for Halloween? And I was like, well, she was a kitty, and I couldn't think of the word pineapple for some reason. I sat there with, like, a complete blank stare, and I actually had to ask my husband, what did we dress our daughter as? And he's like, a pineapple? And I'm like, yeah, that's the word. That's the word I was trying to come up with. It's been so bad, like, just forgetting everything. And I remember when my sister was going through it, she said she actually went to her doctor, and she was like, I'm forgetting everything. I think that there's something wrong with me. Like, I don't know. We have a history of, like, Alzheimer's in my family and stuff like that. So she thought maybe it was, like, early onset dementia. And they actually, like, she went for an MRI. So, like, her doctor sent her for an MRI because she's like, no, I can't even remember, like, my stepmom's name.
Yeah,
like, things
that's
like
why,
that.
That's good that they took it so serious.
Yeah, and she went, and it turned out it was just sleep deprivation.
Just mom brain.
So it's a real thing. Like, it's mom brain, and it's crazy. Like, when you've only been sleeping, like, 3 hours a night, and that goes on for weeks.
Or months.
Like.
But don't you find it's crazy? Like, I was always used to getting a full 8 hours of sleep before Preston, and I thought I could never function with anything less. And now it's like, I'm functioning on 5 hours of sleep sometimes, 4 hours. Like, yeah, it's crazy how your body kind of adjusts, and
you just, how you somehow can still function. Like, when you're up 4 or 5 times a night for half an hour, an hour,
still
sometimes
function.
more.
Yeah, I'm functioning on a very low level. But I am functioning, so that's pretty... I don't know. It's good for sleeping only like 3 hours, but I know what you mean. Like,
Yeah.
my husband will always tease, like, I used to get at least 8 hours of sleep, and anything minimum, I was like cranky, angry, couldn't get through the day. And now I'm functioning on like 4 or 3 hours of sleep, and I'm managing. I drink a lot of coffee, but I'm making it work. So,
for Preston, at first too, it was so easy. By the way, Preston will be 6 months on Friday. And at first it was like, oh, this is so easy. He's sleeping all the time. Like, I can keep my house clean. I can cook meals. And then the 4-month sleep regression hit, and then he was up like every hour to 2 hours. He went from sleeping in his bassinet beside our bed, and then we took him in to the bed with us. We co-slept with him just because it was so much easier, because he was waking up so often. Mm-hmm. It was easier to have him with us in the bed. And then he got used to co-sleeping, and I was like, okay, I don't want to make this a habit. So I read the, what is it called? The ABCs of Sleep, I think it's called. And definitely got some good insight. I didn't follow it completely. I'm doing more of like the Ferber method, meaning I put him down and I do check-ins First, you do a check-in after 5 minutes, then you do your second check-in after 10 minutes, and then you do your third check-in after 15 minutes. So I started it on last Monday, and I was really worried about it because I thought I never let him cry. I let him cry for maybe max 5 minutes, and I'd just go grab him. So I thought there's no way he's going to sleep by himself in the crib. He's used to co-sleeping. And the first night I put him down and he slept he cried for maybe 10 minutes. And he did like 4 to 5 hour stretches. So he slept from like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. the next morning and only woke up twice for a bottle. So they're just having a conversation over here. I was shocked. I think he got a better sleep being by himself in his crib, and maybe when I was sleeping too, I was kind of waking him up in the middle of the night when I would move around or, do something. So I always thought that he was the reason why he wasn't sleeping properly, but I think I was the reason why he wasn't sleeping properly.
You get so much anxiety about it. And
yeah, like I was like, I'm not gonna let him cry for, like, I went in with an expectation that I won't let him cry more than 45 minutes. Preston.
And that's not 45 minutes straight.
That's with check-ins every 10 to 15 minutes. And I've been doing it for a week now, and the most he's had a stretch of crying was for 10 minutes. He's been putting himself to sleep, self-soothing himself to sleep, and I'm just shocked. Like, I should have done this so much, so long ago, because it's really crazy how much of a difference it makes. And even with him sleeping so good at night, now he's been sleeping really good with his nap times. Every 2 hours, he starts rubbing his eyes. He goes down for a nap in his crib, and he sleeps for a full hour, sometimes almost 2 hours. Mm-hmm. It's made like such a difference in our life now.
Now, would you consider your routine strict, or are you still
No, I'm definitely not strict. I try to get him in bed by like 7 o'clock, but there's been nights where he's gone to bed at 6:30. There's been nights where he's gone to bed at 8. I don't consider myself strict. I just watch for his cues when he's rubbing his eyes, because if you put them to bed and they're not tired at all, like, it's not going to work either. So no, I don't consider it strict. And the same with his naps. I just follow his cues, and when he's ready to go down, then he goes down. But now he's getting in a routine, so I find he's been following his routine. So yeah, we're both much happier. He's less cranky. It's awesome.
We have a similar routine with Chloe too, of between probably 6:30 and 7 is usually pajamas, get her ready for bed, get her fed, and get her to bed. Like by 7 o'clock, if she is not in bed yet, she's usually getting real cranky. So we're fairly strict on the timeline. And usually we do pajamas first, get her changed, brush her teeth. We'll usually, if she's fairly happy, we'll sit and read a book and then feed her and try and get her into bed. But she has gone through good nights, bad nights. It's hit and miss these days. You never know what you're gonna get. You're like just crossing your fingers of, okay, tonight we need to have a good night of sleep, and then the next thing you know, she's awake an hour later. So
Sorry, did you say how old Chloe is?
Chloe's 8 months.
And are you still struggling with her standing up in the crib?
We are. I think because she's on the move so much these days, she's crawling, she's pulling herself up to stand, playing, she has a little play table, so she loves standing there and kind of knocking all the buttons, right? But now that it's bedtime, she likes to crawl over to the side and then also still pull herself up to stand, but she doesn't know how to get back down. So she'll stand there screaming because she's stuck standing up and doesn't know how to get back down. That we're struggling with how to get this little nugget back to sleep without her getting herself all worked up and flustered. So it's been a struggle. But timeline, we're pretty strict on the timeline, and sort of the process of like the order of things. And that seems to work for her. She knows when to go down, but it's just staying asleep that.
What is your
like
routine for getting her down?
We'll feed her and then burp her, and then we have got in the habit of I'll rock her and just sing her Twinkle Twinkle, and then once that's done, I'll just put her down.
Yeah.
And
Is she awake when she's down, or
she's
drowsy?
sometimes pretty drowsy, but she was like Preston, where the first times that we let her just cry, it was like, okay, she'll cry herself to sleep.
Yeah.
And then she got in the habit of only crying for maybe 5-10 minutes and would put herself down. But now that she's standing up and crying, she'll sometimes cry for a very long time. But we'll pop in and we'll check on her.
Yeah.
To the point of like an hour later, you're like, well, do I still just rock her to sleep? Because apparently that's the only thing that's going to work. So we're struggling in sleep these days. But like Chantel said, lots of coffee. That's how we get through a day.
Yeah. For me, I find it very hard to I always rush in as soon as I hear that little peep or shuffle or crying a little bit. I go in and I think it's almost my fault for getting her up, and I'll refeed her and put her down, and we kind of have a hard time with her self-soothing just because she never took a pacifier. She won't pretty much I don't know what other method to use to get her to self-soothe, because it's really my boob that self-soothes her.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
her...
Preston does take the pacifier, and I feel like without it, I don't know how he would be able to self-soothe himself, because he relies on his pacifier at night.
And I find too, if I go in and I just pat her or rub her and try to keep her in her crib, she gets mad that I'm aren't you gonna pick me up now? Come on, I'm laying here and you're not picking me up. What's happening? And it almost makes her angrier.
Yeah.
I always give in. I'm gonna be oh, I'm in trouble because I give in right away.
Well, you'll figure it out at one point,
yeah.
what works for you, and right now you're doing what works for you. So.
Yeah, and my husband, we have brought her into the bed with us, and we have co-slept, and my husband was honestly, whatever you need to do to get some sleep, because I try as long as I can to keep her in the crib, and then if I'm getting up every hour to half hour, it gets to the point in the morning where I'm I really just need to sleep, and I'll take her in the bed with me and we'll lay by each other, and then she just passes right out. And then we sleep for a few hours, and then we're good, and then so I really...
The sleep thing, it's totally a roller coaster. You start off, Chloe was a good sleeper at first. When we brought her home from the hospital even, she would sleep 3 hours, wake up, feed, go back to sleep for another 3 hours. So I was all right, I can do this. This isn't too bad.
I used to think, what is everyone talking about? This isn't bad at all. These 6 to 7 hour stretches, no problem. I got this. And then I realized, okay, never mind. I get it now.
And same thing, right? So she started out 3 hours as a newborn, and then she worked herself up to, she'd sleep 6 or 7 hours at a time, and I was all right, this is great. She's, 4 or 5 months, she's doing 6 or 7 hours. And then it's just you go through these phases where same thing. Then they're up every hour, and you're where did this come from? What is happening here?
Please go back. Please go back to sleeping normally. What did we change? You You won't change a single thing. And there's nights where they sleep really good, and you're like, okay, what did I do? Like, what did I do to
like,
get her
I
to
got
sleep this well?
Yeah.
Okay, we did a bath, we did this, and you tried the exact same routine the next day. Nope.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
It's just,
So hit and miss.
They
You never
decide.
know. What's
From
gonna
day
work,
one,
what's
like
not.
Austin's 6 months now, and from day one he was like a pretty good sleeper. We did co-sleep from the very beginning. I had great intentions. I had a beautiful bassinet, and everything was all there. I couldn't do it. I had major anxiety about it. So from day one, I just brought him in the bed with me, and that's what worked for us. But then at about 3 months, he started flipping himself onto his stomach already, and just wanted his own space. So then I tried to put him in the bassinet, and but because he already moved so much, he essentially grew it. So we moved him to his crib at 3 months, and the first few nights were brutal. Like, I could not sleep at all, but I did fall asleep on the first night, and I woke up and the monitor had died. I forgot to plug it in, so the screen was just black, and I had this moment of pure terror. Ran into his room, and he was just sleeping like a little angel. He actually, from that day on, slept so well in his crib. He was doing really long stretches.
We were all really jealous.
Everybody was
we're like, I wish my kid was like Austin. Like, can we trade babies for like a week or two?
And then probably in the last month, I don't know what happened. I mean, he's getting teeth, and he's a baby, and they're constantly going through lots of different things. So he kind of, was regressing. And so some nights he'd be up every hour. Some nights it'd be every couple hours. I think we're getting back into his regular routine again now, which is nice with the odd night that he gets up a little bit more. But for us, I don't really I wouldn't say I'm strict, but I'm probably somewhere in between. And I watch for his cues during the day, and then put him right up into his room. He's got his sound machine, so he naps really well, at least 3 times a day. And then bedtime is usually dictated by him again, like when he's actually tired, and it's anywhere between 6 and 7:30. I don't do anything too regularly. Like, we've decided not to do a bath every time before bed because I don't want him to associate that. If we're out and can't do that, or on the road and can't do that.
And also, I do it every once in a while too, because I do it like 3 times, 4 times a week. Yeah. I just don't want her skin to dry out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to overbath them either. But we do feeding, and then we do fresh diaper, jammies, and that's our consistent thing, because obviously all of those things have to happen. And then like a little cuddle. Sometimes Jordan will read him a book, and then I do feed him to sleep on my boob. But sometimes if he hasn't fallen asleep, I will just pick him up and put him in his crib, and he will fall asleep on his own. But usually when I put him down, he's asleep, but he does stay asleep. And then in the night when he wakes up, if he's just crying a little bit, I'll leave him, and he'll fall back asleep. But if he doesn't, then I know that like he needs me, so I go in and I get him, and I usually feed him or just rock him and then put him back down.
And Austin has a magic crib. Callie's first nap ever in a crib was actually in Austin's room in his crib, and she probably slept for like at least half an hour, 40 minutes,
her,
which is really good for her, because she just cat naps. We do like 10-15 minutes at a time.
Callie does not sleep.
No, she does not sleep.
Party
She
animal.
does not sleep.
Yeah.
It's always party time.
Yeah, she has major FOMO.
Yeah.
She has a fear of missing out. She always wants to know what's going on. She always has to be a part of it. I've tried putting her down in her crib for naps, and she's just up right away. Like, the second she touches a different surface other than my lap or the nursing pillow, up.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how dark, quiet, like, if I sneak in there, like, gently put her down. No, she's like, ah! Like, no, can't do it. I don't know. It's
what
really
are some
tough.
things that you guys thought before you had a baby about sleep? Like, were you just assuming like, oh, it's not going to be a problem?
You know when they say like, sleep like a baby, or like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm going to
where
sleep
did
like
that
a baby
saying come
tonight.
from?
I'm like, how does a baby sleep? Like, I don't know. That's why I put that post the other day of sleep like your husband.
Yeah.
I don't want to sleep like a baby. I want to sleep like my husband. I get up and do the night feedings. We formula feed, bottle feed, and I just find it's easier if I get up in the night when Josh is home from his shift work. Actually, I get up for the night feedings and I feed him just because I find it so much easier for me to just kind of put him back down. But Josh will get up in the mornings and get up at like 6 or 7 a.m., whatever time he wakes up, and do those feedings. But yeah, I really thought, I didn't think that you would be up every couple hours.
Yeah.
I was never
so
told
naive
about the
it.
regressions.
No.
I never knew they like regressed in
No.
sleep. I always thought it was like they'll
once they're
just
sleeping, they're
continually
sleeping.
get better and like okay, they might their naps get shorter and they don't take as many like as they get older.
Yeah.
But then they kind of sleep through the night, and that's what I kind of thought going into it. So when she was doing those 7 to 6 hour stretches, I was like, wow, I have an awesome baby. Like, we've got this. No
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
If she's sleeping 6 to 7 hours now, we'll just increase that to 8 hours and we're good. But I didn't realize that, like, they do go
the other
back.
way.
Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you think that, like, okay, we've got this.
Yeah.
And then other
That's
times
the
you're like, oh my
learning
God, what
new
happened?
skills and stuff.
Yeah.
Then they.
Yeah.
I like the whole sleep when the baby sleeps.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to
that's
sleep
not a
when I
thing.
drive.
Yeah.
Sleep when the, like,
Well, you still have to get. I mean, of course, there are some little moments that
Sleep
maybe
when
if
we're
it's
going for a
convenient, you can, go in there and have a nap. But generally, you have stuff to do.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. That's when I clean. That's when I do laundry.
Make
That's when I
dinner,
make dinner. Wash
Have
his
a moment
bottles.
for yourself.
Yeah. Watch a TV
I also
show.
find it
or-
hard to sleep during the day.
Well,
Like,
yeah, if you're not
Yeah.
a napper, then it's like,
For myself, well, now it's not as bad because we're going into winter and, like 4 o'clock, it's pitch black.
Yeah.
So that's okay. I could have a nap at 4, no problem. But during the day when it's light out, I find it very hard to sleep.
I remember the first night at home with her. I don't think I slept at all the first night. I kept waking up probably every 10 minutes to be like, is she still breathing? Like, you
for
don't know,
sure.
right? So I think every 10, 15 minutes I would like wake up, check
sure
on
she's
her,
breathing.
make sure she's breathing, make sure she's okay. Oh, I slept.
Oh,
That
like,
was
okay,
so
the
nice.
first week, I probably slept maybe 8 hours in the full
yeah,
first
for
week.
sure.
And
the
it's,
first week is a
I think
whole
you're
horror.
going
Yeah.
off of adrenaline
Yes,
though still,
you
so
are.
like you don't even realize that you haven't slept at all, and you feel okay because you're just going like full
Yeah.
speed. Everything's like brand new in your life. You're running off of adrenaline, and then as soon as that ends, you're like, oh my God, I need to sleep.
I don't even I barely remember the first
first
week of
week.
his life.
Oh,
Like
it
when
was
I go
a
back to
zombie
think
mode.
about it, I didn't feel tired because I remember we had family here and they're like, go sleep, blah blah. I'm like, oh no, I'm good. But I don't remember it, and I don't know. I guess it's probably because it was shock and
Yeah.
Yeah, adrenaline.
Adrenaline.
Adrenaline
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I know I was just like Lauren, every 5 minutes I go and make sure she was still breathing, make sure she was okay. I had such a hard time sleeping. The first time we ever put Callie in the crib, same thing. I watched the monitor the
Yeah.
entire night.
Yeah.
And I remember just being grouchy, I was told my husband turn off the TV, shut off
Yes.
the music,
Yeah.
I can't sleep, and he's like, you're not gonna sleep because you're watching a monitor. And he's
about our
just
environment.
close your eyes. But it was really hard for me to sleep the first night just because I was used to having her in the bassinet beside us.
Yeah.
And being able to look at her and hear her, and the littlest movements I could always hear because I'm a very light sleeper. And then when we put her in the crib, I was just I felt so
Well, you're
far
nervous.
away from
Yeah,
her,
and you're will I hear her? Will I? I remember when he was having his naps, or if he went to bed before we went to bed, I would bring the monitor everywhere with me, the bathroom, no matter, it was right in front of my face. And then one day I'm I'll hear him. So now if I bring it, I'll bring it downstairs, I'll put it on the counter, and it's loud enough that I can hear him, and every once in a while I will peek, but it's no longer beside me everywhere I go, because that was actually giving me anxiety.
And that too, as soon as they made that peep, you'd run upstairs as fast as you could to make sure everything was okay, and they're fine, right?
Do you ever get that feeling when you look at the monitor like you might see a ghost or
Yes,
something in front of. I'm like, oh, I haven't checked the monitor in like a half an hour, and I go to look, and I'm like,
You're like, you
what
don't
was
wanna
that?
look,
I
yeah.
thought I just saw something.
Well, I thought one day I saw eyes, and then I told Jordan about it, and he's like, those pixels are just broken. Watch, if you move it, the eyes move too. I was convinced there was something in his room, but I was like too scared to go in there.
Yeah, it's just like that thing where they're talking in their crib and you're like, who are they talking
Yeah.
to? Oh my god. But it's funny because like even then, like my first instinct would be like, oh my god, is there someone else in there? Like run in and make sure, but you know, they're fine. But
I remember one night too, she was probably a month old at this point, that Jordan and I had agreed that he was going to take one of the feed in the morning, so like her, 5 a.m. or whatever feed, so I could sleep in. But you're sleep deprived at this point. And so I remember I woke up, right? And she's a month old, so every single time you've woken up so far, your first instinct is look in the bassinet, make sure the baby's okay. So I wake up, look over at the bassinet, and there's no baby. I freaked out so hard. Sat up out of bed, ran out of the bedroom, like, oh my gosh, where's the baby? And then Jordan's sitting downstairs. Remember I told you I was going to take her for the morning. I'm like, my heart is beating so fast.
So scary.
But that's your instinct,
Yeah,
right?
I had a nightmare that Austin was being taken out of the crib, and I could see it happening on the monitor, but I had to get upstairs, but the stairs were like quicksand. I couldn't run up, so I was screaming, and like Jordan actually woke me up because I was screaming in real life, or like I think I was calling his name or something like that, and so it was
I've
horrible.
had that dream
God,
too. So
that's
has Josh.
scary.
That Preston's gotten kidnapped. Like I was in a store and somebody just took a stroller and walked out with it, and like you dream it, but it's reality. It could happen.
Yeah.
So
It's
It's-
yeah.
That's if you're checking the monitor in the middle of the night and there's no baby.
No baby,
That's
it's like the
horrible.
worst. I'm actually I'm going to admit I'm 36 years old and I'm essentially afraid of the dark. And so since I've had Austin, I've had to put like my big girl panties on because when I go in the middle of the night and the whole house is dark and it's quiet and I've got to go
keep it
into
that
his
way.
bedroom that's pitch black and sit there and feed him, you would not believe the things that go through my head.
oh my God.
And I look around thinking like,
What's
something
gonna
pops
pop out of
yeah,
the closet?
it's just gonna pop open. I make sure his closet door is always closed because I know that'll freak me out. I also think about people being in the house, so I'll like be sitting there in the rocker feeding him and then like think I hear something and then I have to think about what am I gonna do. Like if someone comes in here, I have actually picked him up while still breastfeeding him and walked quietly into the bedroom and woken Jordan up and made him go check the house.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's my life.
God. It's actually funny. We were watching a movie yesterday, and there's a lady that got her house broken into, and Eric right away was like, "Oh my God, we don't have a bat under our bed. What if someone broke into our house? We have a daughter now." So the next thing I know, he's on Amazon looking up like steel bats to buy. I'm like, "Oh my God, okay."
Well, that's why I was so upset when you asked it, or you told us that we should watch that movie. Do you remember what it was called?
Fractured.
Yeah, Fractured. And I was like, well, Chantel's a real sweet girl. It's probably a pretty nice movie.
I like thrillers, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Little did you know.
So minutes in, Jordan's like, do you still want to watch it? And I was like, well, yeah, I'll watch it. But I was so much anxiety the entire time. And then just thought about horrible things that could
That could
happen.
go wrong.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't the movie for you.
Yeah, your mind does go. It goes there. It goes to some.
I fall asleep to
Scary
Dateline
places.
every second night.
Oh.
That's my thing, is falling asleep to people
And then
getting
you
murdered.
and then you wonder where your dreams come
Yeah,
from. right?
exactly.
What is one piece of advice about sleeping that you would give yourself?
Give yourself.
I don't know about giving myself. One piece of advice I would give to others, well, it's actually a couple of things. First of all, to have the baby's room pitch black. I found that really made a difference.
And you just used garbage bags.
I just put garbage bags on my windows, and he's on the second floor, so I looked from outside, and it doesn't look ghetto. You can't tell it's garbage bags. But that was a really easy
it worked,
fix.
right?
And it worked. next thing.
I
next
find
thing is
noise machines.
Yeah, sound
like
machine was
sound
my next
machine.
thing.
Sound machine is
like a must.
I
A
actually
must.
learned that I cannot sleep now without the sounds of
Yeah.
the womb playing in the background. And it, like, even when I was away in BC with my daughter, my husband was like, it's funny, like, I'm so used to listening to sounds of the womb too, that even when we weren't there, even when my daughter wasn't there, you have to play that in the background in order to sleep.
And Sounds of the Womb, by the way, is you just type it in on YouTube and you'll find it. And I used to play it for Preston the third day he was born. I played it for him and he loved it. So I told Chantel about it, and then Callie was born a couple of weeks later, and she played it for Callie, and Callie's been
And
loving
we've
it
listened
too.
to it ever since. Like,
Yeah.
And
I find
apparently there's another one that's 8 hours of lawnmower sounds.
Oh.
And it actually puts them to sleep too. Yeah, lawnmower. Yeah.
So that's actually a good tip. Like if you don't have an actual sound machine, or if you're on the road or at someone else's house, just Google it on your phone, and you can leave your phone or have a spare phone that's not connected or anything anymore, just in their
That's
wherever
actually
they're
what we
sleeping.
have. We
Yeah.
have an old phone playing Sounds of the Womb every night, and it's like a 10-hour soundtrack, so like you never have to worry about it going off or changing or anything. Though I do have a really funny story. I don't know how this happened, but we were listening to Sounds of the Womb at night, which is normal, and we were fast asleep, and then all of a sudden it like scared the crap out of me and my husband, but for some reason it switched from that to some like Arabic station.
Like,
So it was like this is crazy, like
all of a sudden you're
music.
like, Callie's sleeping.
And like we woke up from like dead asleep and we're like, holy shit, what is that? And like for some reason it started playing a video like underneath it, which makes no sense because it doesn't go along with it.
Yeah.
But it just started playing this like
randomly.
weird Arabic station, and it was just so funny because it like scared the crap out of us.
That's funny.
Another thing I wanted to just say quickly, because I know he's the only one who takes a pacifier, is glow-in-the-dark pacifiers. And then you put a couple of them in the crib, so that way if he loses one, he'll just grab another one if he can't find it. So I put like 4 or 5 glow-in-the-dark pacifiers around him in his crib. That way in the middle of the night, if it falls out of his mouth, he'll just grab another one and he's able to see it in the pitch black.
Oh,
That's
such a
great.
good
idea.
That's
So,
such a good idea. Someone was thinking when they made those.
Right? Yeah.
Awesome.
And if any of our listeners have ideas on sleep, I'm sure we would all love to have some more tips and tricks.
Yeah.
So
And we'll also add that, we're doing what works for us. We're all kind of winging it. Do your own research and see what works for you. And one of the biggest things you'll find when you're a mom is that there's going to be a lot of conflicting information out there. You just need to sift through it, trust your sources, and then trust your gut.
Trust your gut, and honestly, like, you have to do what you have to do. So whatever works for you and whatever is getting you by, I say do it. Like, as long as it's safe,
yeah.
and you guys are both safe, then do what works for you.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, I guess we'll thank everybody for listening this week. We hope, it wasn't as risque as our last episode, but we also want to, make sure that we're, giving some advice to and maybe helping other people that are struggling and just winging it like we are. Next week we are going to have, on this Friday actually, we're going to have another episode and it's going to be on everything food. So from starting breastfeeding or bottle feeding or pumping to introducing solids and maybe even some of the food that us moms like to eat because we definitely do that.
We like wine.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Real Mom Gang. And always ask any questions that you might have, and we'd be happy to answer them. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
The Real Mom Gang out.
Out.